Hi guys, Dimitri Eruditis. I'm an attorney at law in the state of California, and today we're going to talk about something that's a really hot topic in the news, the media, and social media. It's the Britney Spears hashtag Free Britney. So first off, what are we freeing Britney from? Well, if you don't know, Britney Spears has been in a conservatorship since 2008. So she's been in a conservatorship for a very long time. How did she get into a conservatorship? Well, there's a whole lot of debate behind that, and I know the Free Britney movement people are, going to jump on the case and, say that there's no way she should have ever been in a conservatorship. And then there's the other people on the other side that are like, I don't know either way. So today we're going to talk about it. We're going to go through some of the steps. And from an attorney's perspective, whether the conservatorship is actually valid. So I've done some work in conservatorships. And the first thing to know is, what is a conservatorship? So there's different types of conservatorships, and there's different parts of a conservatorship. There's a conservatorship that is over the person, and then there's a conservatorship that is over the estate. So what does that mean? That means different people are managing different things, or one person is managing all of those things, but they have to be granted the powers under conservatorship to look after the person or look after the estate. So the estate's going to be things like the financial matters and all of those issues. The person is going to be the individual rights that are kind of inhibited by a conservatorship. So ultimately, what's really important to know about a conservatorship is that a conservatorship is for the person's well-being. It is supposed to take care of that person. So somebody obviously who doesn't need a conservatorship should not be under a conservatorship. Your individual rights are very much restricted under conservatorship because you're basically saying that that person does not have the capacity to do things for themselves like a normal person. So now the question is, should Britney Spears be under a conservatorship? Guys, that is a $1 million question. That is the most difficult question to answer, and as an attorney, my answer is going to be, we just don't know. The reason we don't know is because we're not seeing what the judge is seeing, what the medical reports are saying, and all the other things that kind of got her to a conservatorship in the first place. So back when, in 2008, when Britney Spears was first put on a conservatorship, she wasn't even allowed to choose her own lawyer. That lawyer was told by the judge that Britney Spears did not have the capacity to appoint her own lawyer. So needless to say, Britney Spears' voice herself in this process has probably been pretty limited. We don't know the circumstances, and we don't know whether Britney Spears agreed to the conservatorship. She didn't. What we do know, though, is that Britney Spears has always been against her father having any part in this conservatorship. Her father being Jamie Spears, and she doesn't want it. She's made that pretty clear. I don't think that's ever been a mystery. Now, what the Free Britney movement doesn't seem to address is that it doesn't appear that Britney Spears has ever petitioned to end the conservatorship. So that conservatorship is in place, and Britney Spears is not saying that she doesn't want it, not as far as we can tell anyway. Now, I know that's up for debate because people are going to say, well, you can see it in her messages on social media and whatnot. You're totally missing the point. I don't know. But I do know that no petition has been started to end the conservatorship. What has been done, though, is there has been a petition to remove her father as a conservator, as somebody who's looking out for her, and there has been also a lot of movement that hasn't been there before. So what are the recent things that have been happening that are making this even more exciting? Well, the judge finally let Britney Spears appoint her own lawyer. She now has an individual lawyer. Now, don't think that Britney Spears was never represented. She always had a lawyer because the court will appoint a lawyer when somebody doesn't have the capacity to choose one themselves, which is what they did in 2008. But now they're saying that Britney Spears does have capacity to choose her own lawyer. So what does that mean? That means that the facts are definitely different from what they were when this conservatorship was first put in place. Britney Spears has more capacity, undoubtedly. That is absolutely true. Now, does she have enough capacity to get out of the conservatorship and to manage her own affairs? That question is very, very difficult. And the reason that's very difficult is because the people who really are going to know that are the medical professionals. Now, what you're going to hear is that, well, Britney Spears has been basically controlled by everybody and everything, including getting bad medical reports probably because they've been controlling every aspect of her life. Well, I would like to think that the justice system works better than that, and that the burden for proving that somebody doesn't have capacity isn't being, mishandled. And I don't think it is being mishandled. What I can say, though, is that we're going to address some of the other issues. People are like, well, Britney Spears obviously has the capacity to go do shows, go do things, so why wouldn't she have the capacity to manage her own affairs? It just doesn't make sense. Well, it's not technically an argument for court, but it does give you that feeling or show an inclination that a person should be able to manage themselves. So what do you do with that bit of information? It's hard, guys. Well, and the reason it's hard is because you can have a million different examples of where somebody has the capacity to work, but they don't necessarily have the capacity to manage other things in their life. I'll give you an example. There are a lot of individuals who have disabilities, and they may be somewhat autistic, and they can still work a job, but when it comes to other aspects of their life, their capacity may be limited. It's not a bad thing. It just means that there's got to be somebody there to help them through those aspects of their life. Now, I will concede that Britney Spears' overall conservatorship is pretty restrictive. There's a lot of things in place that, I think you would really have to meet a high burden to reach. I can assure you that conservatorships in general in California are very difficult to get. They're extremely difficult to get over a person who does have capacity. Pretty much that person just needs to stand up and say, hey, look, I've got the ability to do this on my own, and it's not going to be granted. So where does this all fall at the end of the day? Well, Britney Spears has a lawyer, and he is fighting for certain things. It does look like they've got some argument that Jamie Spears may not be an individual that should be in the conservatorship, and at the end of the day, I tend to agree with that. If there's somebody else who has the ability to manage her affairs, there's no reason to have somebody who Britney Spears is very obviously against. And then you got to go to the other side of that debate, which is, but does she even have capacity to know that he's not doing what's in her best interest? Debatable. I've heard a lot of attacks of Mr. Spears. I don't know anything about the guy, so I'm not going to even delve into that area. And then I've heard things about, hey, Britney Spears, she has this huge following, and it's difficult for me to believe that somebody as famous as Britney Spears was managed to be bound by a conservatorship, and they pulled the wool over everybody's eyes. And it starts delving into whether this is actually some kind of conspiracy theory. I will say this, if Britney Spears does have the capacity, and that's what the medical reports say, then she should absolutely not be under a conservatorship. And if that were the case, and we found out that to be true, then what we would realize is that this has been probably the greatest abuse of a conservatorship that has ever existed all time. But is that the case? I'm going to leave it up to you guys. At the end of the day, I'm going to totally say, hey, free Britney with if she has full capacity. Definitely don't want to see anybody under a conservatorship that doesn't need one. But on the other side of the coin, guys, remember, if she actually does need a conservatorship, you would be doing her a huge disfavor by taking her out of that conservatorship, because that means that her life may go down the drain and she would be in dire straits if she didn't have it. That's all I got on the Free Britney movement for now. We'll look into it further. We'll look into some pleadings. If you guys have some questions in particular, leave some, comments, and hopefully we can follow up and follow the saga. We'll see what happens, guys.